In a village nestled between rolling green hills, there stood a well. It wasn't just any well. The villagers called it the Well of Joy. Its water was said to be the sweetest, the clearest, and anyone who drank from it would feel a wave of happiness wash over them. For generations, the well was the heart of the village. People gathered there not just for water, but for laughter, for stories, and for the simple, pure joy it brought into their lives. The village thrived, known far and wide for its cheerful people and peaceful existence. One morning, a young girl named Alara went to the well as she always did. But when she drew her bucket, the water was cloudy and tasted bitter. She didn't feel the usual rush of happiness. Instead, a strange emptiness settled in her heart. She told her parents, who tasted the water and felt the same unsettling void. Soon, the entire village knew. Panic began to ripple through the community. The Well of Joy was no longer joyful. As days turned into weeks, the change in the village was stark. The laughter that once echoed through the streets faded into silence. People stopped gathering at the well. They grew withdrawn, irritable, and suspicious of one another. The vibrant colors of the village seemed to turn gray, and the once thriving fields began to wither, neglected. The joy that had defined their lives was gone, replaced by a heavy blanket of sorrow and apathy. It was as if the well wasn't just providing water, but had been siphoning the very spirit of the community. Ilara couldn't bear to see her home so broken. She remembered her grandmother's stories about the well's magic, how it was a reflection of the people who drew from it. "The well gives what it receives," her grandmother used to say. Could it be that the well hadn't changed, but the people had? Had they started taking the joy for granted, coming to the well only to take, not to share? This thought sparked a flicker of hope in her heart. She decided to try something. She gathered her most treasured possession, a small, hand-carved wooden bird that her grandfather had made for her, a token that always brought her a smile. With a heavy heart but a determined spirit, she walked to the desolate well. As a few villagers watched with curiosity, she whispered her gratitude to the well for all the joy it had given her family over the years. Then, she gently dropped the wooden bird into its depths. It wasn't much, but it was an offering of genuine happiness, a piece of her own joy given freely. The next morning, Alara returned to the well, her heart pounding. She lowered the bucket and drew the water. It was still a little cloudy, but when she tasted it, she felt a tiny spark. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a flicker of the old joy. Encouraged, she ran to tell the villagers. At first, they were skeptical, but seeing the genuine hope in Ilara's eyes, a few decided to follow her lead. An old baker brought a small, warm loaf of bread, the first thing he'd baked with care in weeks, and offered its aroma to the well before crumbling a piece into the water. A musician, whose flute had been silent, played a soft, hopeful melody by its stone edge. A young couple, who had been arguing, shared a quiet, reconciled hug and dropped a single shared flower petal into the water. Each person brought something small, an echo of a forgotten happiness, an act of giving. Slowly, miraculously, the well began to change. With each act of kindness, each shared story, each genuine smile offered at its edge, the water grew clearer. The bitter taste sweetened. The heavy gloom that had settled over the village began to lift, like a morning mist burning away under the sun. The villagers started talking again, not with suspicion, but with a newfound understanding. They realized the well was not a magical source of endless joy, but a mirror reflecting the state of their own hearts. The well had drained their joy because they had stopped contributing to it. They had forgotten that happiness isn't something you just take. It's something you create and share. The well became a teacher, reminding them that community, gratitude, and acts of kindness are the true sources of joy. They had to fill each other's cups before they could draw from a common source. The village was never quite the same as it was before. The joy that returned was different. It was deeper, more meaningful, and cherished all the more because they knew what it was like to lose it. They understood that true happiness wasn't a magic potion from a well, but a conscious choice they made every day, a choice to give, to connect, and to be grateful. The well still stood at the center of the village, its water clear and sweet. But now, when people gathered there, it wasn't just to drink. It was to remember, to share, and to actively pour their own joy back into the world, ensuring the well would never run dry again. If you ever feel like your own well of joy is running low, maybe it's time to ask what you can give, not just what you can take. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness is all it takes to make the water sweet again. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales that make you think. See you next time.